Yo, Inca, you want to come out here?
How's it going on, everybody? It's your boy Incog back at it again. This is the week 1 team builder for the BBL, the Bandless Battlers League. I'm your coach Incog, aka Avery, whichever one is better for you. We fight Sir Jorge. Oh wow, I'm sorry, Jorge. I didn't mean to say your name bad. We're facing Sir Jorge the Great, and he is a very scary team. So allow me to zoom in just so slightly there for you. Or well, maybe a little bit more, actually. Jorge's team consists of Kyurem White, Cinderace, Rotom Wasp, Sylveon, Venusaur, Torkoal, Corviknight, Mudsdale, Scrafty, Tornadus Incarnate, Sootopolis, and Exeggutor Alola. So, right off the bat, you might notice my thing is color-coded. I know a lot of people are going to be like, but Avery, aren't you colored? I know, I am. But I know how to read, and I also know how to identify what I do, because the colors have names. And also I have people look over my things. But regardless, here's what the ordeal is. If you see green, those are Pokemon I'm expecting. If you see yellow, those are Pokemon that I think may come. If you see red, they're not coming. I'm not going to repeat this every week. You should be able to pick it up, and pretty sure you'll be able to understand. I may use different colors for my own convenience, because sometimes I forget. Surprising. Basically, I believe he's going to bring the top 3. Then he brings Venusaur, Mudsdale, Scrafty. With my front office, we've conferred and said he might not bring Venusaur. He might just bring Sylveon in its place, but that's nor here nor there. We'll talk about that in a bit. But for now, let's talk about Jorge's team just a little bit in depth, I guess. If you want to skip this part, there will be chapters in the description so you can see where you want to really listen to. Now, first and foremost, Jorge is a very interesting team. Not a bad team at all. I think that Jorge's team is definitely one of those kind of teams where it kind of balances out the further you go down. While I understand that his team definitely can be pretty easily predicted based on the fact that I have Sun, I have 2 Dragons, and I also have just great physically offensive weapons, there's always that chance he might bring something crazy because Jorge is definitely a really creative battler. And last season we fought in the BBL was season 7, and he beat the shit out of me with the weakness policy of Victini. I'm not going to do that to him, but I thought I might as well mention when we fought last and who won, who lost, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. But Kyurem White, Cinderace are generally going to be the offensive weapons. We could see a more offensive Venusaur, or just Venusaur in general being offensive since it'll be in the sun pretty automatically because of Groudon. If I bring it this week, of course, I mean, spoiler alert, I am. Otherwise, what we're really looking at is trying to break his defensive core of Rotom Wasp, Sylveon, Mudsdale, and Scrafty. If we do see Tornadus, then we could probably expect to not see Venusaur, I guess. I don't know why Tornadus would come in the first place, but it can. I don't think it will just because of our priority, as I've been told from many of my front office members. Shout out to them. Tornadus definitely doesn't want to be here. I don't see Corviknight coming. We have Sun. We have Victini, we have Lantern, and we have a lot, and I mean a lot, of great weapons that can be specially offensive to defeat Corviknight. If I see Torkoal, honestly, fine, I guess. I don't have any comment on why it should be there, but it shouldn't. Sootopolis is kind of in that position as well, where it's like, if it's there, thank you. If it's not, okay. Exeggutor is kind of in this weird, Exeggutor Alola, excuse me, is in this weird position where it shouldn't be there, but like, I don't know. Jorge is a very interesting battler. He's the kind of guy who will bring some shit that you're not expecting, and whether it benefits him or not doesn't matter. Jorge is here for fun just like me, so who knows. But outside of those 4, I mean, Tornadus and Sylveon are the only other like mons. I'm mostly expecting Sylveon, not so much Tornadus. So basically prep for everything except for like, I guess Corviknight, Torkoal, Sootopolis, Alola, Exeggutor, and then basically Tornadus, because I felt like they aren't coming, and even if they do, I'm not like wildly unprepared. So I'm going to do this in a different sort of way. As most of you know, I wanted to do these team builders in a bit of a more, not analytically based, but I also want to, well, I guess, yes, analytically based, but not like crazy over the top, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to copy anybody's style. I just want to show you guys my thought process about how I went about building first and where I ended up with my final team. So first and foremost, I basically want to make sure that Kyurem White and Cinderace do not win out the day. I also want to make sure that I'm beating the defensive core that is Sylveon, Mudsdale, Scratchy, Groudon, Wash. So, the first build I made was this one. This is the first build I ever thought of, and it didn't do so hot in trials, but we'll talk about how I improved it. Number one, Pulled Pult, Dragapult Choice Scarf. It's a really, really great Dragapult set. I think that personally, Dragon Darts, if I was choice banded, does a lot more damage to Scrafty. It actually genuinely 2-hit KOs it. Or I guess in Dragon Darts' case, 4-hit KOs it. Lycanroc with Heartstone was pretty good. And it was originally White Herb, but after a few mocks, we're kind of like, it probably doesn't work. Shout out to Jalen for the idea. I'll probably use it later, but not this time. It was mostly for Scrafty, by the way. Debrecashaw, basically just special Groudon with the Rock Polish to clean up a game. Victini Assault Vest mostly for Modest, Scarf, Kyurem White. Outside of like Dracometer doing like 50%, maybe. Everything else is not doing that much. We get 3-hit killed by Earth Power perfectly, so we can definitely try to hit our Focus Blast twice and we'll see where we land. Literally. Spadef-ish. I guess Spadef based, but also like Modest Steela. Just protect 3 attacks, or 2 attacks and Leech Seed. I mean, you guys get it. And then Life Orb, Weavile, Adamant. Basically, I was disrespecting the fact that I didn't believe Tornadus would come because Accelerarch and Ice Shard do everything I need it to do and more. Outside of that, basically defensively, I would need to keep Victini around as much as possible to avoid losing to Cinderace with this build. And what ended up happening was we lost to Cinderace with this build. So I didn't start from the ground up. I just kept going with what I wanted to do. So second build is this build, which is generally the exact same as what you saw earlier, but no Dragapult this time. We have the same Celesteela set, I guess. Originally had Flamethrower, but we stay with Protect just because it was a lot better. 20 speed is mostly for Scrafty trying to creep us at 12 speed, which is a lot better for us in my opinion, but you never know. Same Victini set, same Weavile set. We replaced Close Combat with Toxic on Lycanroc and put a Life Orb on it for more damage. And additionally, Toxic catches Mudsdale coming in, and then we can just switch out into something else like Celesteela. Groudon is mostly the same. We got rid of Rock Polish for a Toxic. Once again, catching something like Rotom Wash coming in, or even Sylveon coming in, we got off a Toxic. If he's not ringing Heal Bell, Sylveon, then I mean, we're in a better position than he is, I guess, but he probably won't have it because he wants Wish Protect, Hyper Voice, and probably Mystical Fire, because in the sun he'll be able to do a lot more damage to Celesteela, and even potentially just lowering special attack would be better for him. And as you might notice, we got Glimmer, the Lantern. Leftovers, it's Fizz Def, and basically tanks more than its share of Cinderace hits. Scald Protect, Dazzling Gleam Toxic. I kind of just threw the set on. It was originally Utility Umbrella, but then I figured, nah, let's just do lefties. Unfortunately though, Glimmer will not have the same moveset as I had earlier. So let's move on to the third build before we get to the final build, which is this one. Nothing has changed that much, as you might notice, except for Glimmer's moves. Ice Beam and Volt Switch were added on instead of Scald and Protect. And basically, I just wanted a guaranteed way to hit Mudsdale, and Volt Switching out would be dope because Jorge would have to go into Mudsdale there. And at that point in time, then it's like, okay, whatever, I guess. Like, if we're not in the sun, Skull does a chunk regardless, so I just wanted to see where I'd be at with this kind of set. And then finally, let us talk about the fourth and final build of this team. And I'll show, first and foremost, a replay that I did earlier with Ben. So, Ben, or that one guy Ben, who you guys might know from most of my videos, or at least a good chunk of them, is my dog, and we determined what we would be seeing. He's my boy, just like Sandy and everybody else in there, and Cherry, and Pat, and Aquarius, and Matt are usually in there, but I know Matt's going to be for a Bibble, so I kind of just took him out of there. Sorry, Matt. Aquarius just hasn't been around too much, so sorry, Aquarius just asked me to come back. Anyone else who wants to join my front office, genuinely just let me know. Regardless of that fact, basically I gave Ben Ben and everybody else went over some things, and basically went with Scarf Kyurem White, modest, because it doesn't need to be timid. Can be if it wants to, but it doesn't need to be. Cinderace with boots, and it has Super Fang, Sucker Punch, U-Turn, Power Ball. Mudsdale Spadef, because it doesn't need to be physically defensive. It can generally take any physically offensive hits it needs to take. Rotom is physically defensive, mostly for Groudon, and also just in general. And I believe Mudsdale's lefties, and I believe Rotom is also lefties, and I actually don't remember. Scrafty is lefties, I know that for sure. It's physically defensive as well with Intimidate, Drain Punch, and Knockoff, and Rest Talk. And then Sylveon is, I believe, mixed defensive. I actually did not look at Ben's set at all, so we'll be able to learn together just based on how damage is rolled out, literally. So let me just go ahead and check my chat real quick. Ben did post. Okay. So here's Ben's paste, right? We got boots. We got Scarf. Oh, he is just 252. Okay. We got basically Spadef, mixed defensive Mudsdale, basically physically defensive Rotom, Spadef Scrafty, which, I mean, that's Ben for you. And then mixed defensive Sylveon, basically mimicking the same set as Mudsdale in terms of EVs. 4 leftovers, 1 boots, 1 Scarf. So easily probably one of the few things that I'm expecting this game is Ben's exact team that I showed you. All links to the paste will be down below, at least the final paste, and then whatever my friend was using in testing, and you guys will be able to see it there. Regardless of that fact, let's go ahead and talk about the battle. Basically, if I see this on the other side, I want to lead Groudon, Lantern, or Salamence. Doesn't matter who, but one of those 3. Beginning here, we lead off with Salamence, and this will basically tell me what my opponent wants to do. If my opponent leads Rotom, I can double in to Lantern and also Groudon. Getting burned on each of those mons does not matter. Getting burned on this doesn't matter either, but I don't really have too much besides Toxic, so I don't really want something to happen like getting discharged and getting paralyzed or getting Volt switched on. So Lantern and Groudon are my better switches. Getting off the Intimidate against Cinderace means that it's always going to be U-turn. There's no possible way he just starts Pyro Balling. Or if he Super Fangs first, that's completely fine, but I would just roost it off because there's not a whole lot. I don't think there's any hits that Jorge would be able to do to get rid of my Salamence after a Super Fang, but that's nor here nor there. Regardless, we do see the straight double into our Toxic, which does miss, unfortunately. We go for Air Slash to check damage, and this tells me that Spadef knocks off my boots. Not the greatest thing in the world for me, but you'll understand later. We get off our Toxic against Sylveon as it comes in, and now we go into Victini. Now, you see 5%. We'll talk about why that only did so little later. Now, Ben will be talking in the chat. You can read his, him and I talking to each other, but don't worry about it. Regardless, we get off the Toxic, and then we switch into Victini, and we take this hit. We take any hit from Sylveon pretty easily. Does Mystical Fire, though, so he does end up just switching on to Scrafty as I go for my U-turn, because I know he's going to switch out every time. There's no reason not to. I go into Lycanroc. I know he's going to go into Mudsdale, so I Toxic Mudsdale here. I then go into Salamence, just because I know rocks are going to get up, so I need to defog as soon as possible. While Sylveon comes in, I defog. This time I switch first. Actually, sorry, I roost first, because I don't know if he's going to go for Hyper Voice. He goes for Mystical Fire, expecting me to switch out to Victini again, because damage is damage, but also I should probably switch first. We both switch, Victini, Kyurem White. I go for Focus Blast because at this point in the battle, you might not understand, and also, we are talking in chat. Basically, once he goes into Kyurem White, I'm semi-comfortable to Focus Blast, because my Victini set is specially designed to take modest Choice Scarf, Kyurem White, Earth Powers 3 times. So I can miss a Focus Blast. All I need to do is land 1. If I land 1, it's in range of Lycanroc for later. And that's why I like this set so much. Because once I see the first Earth Power and I check the damage, I can go into Salamence afterwards. Or I can go into Celesteela afterwards. It doesn't matter. It's probably going to be Scarf. Because it needs to be for Dragapult. If it's not Scarf, we'll find out the Aki way. Regardless of that fact, I do Focus Blast still, and Banjo, aka the Rotom Wash, comes in. As I go for Searing Shot to get off the burn against this, goes for Discharge. And he does get the paralysis. And me and Ben kind of debated whether or not I should have stayed in there at all, as you can see over here. I don't care if I get parried. That Victini has no speed, which we'll talk about my spreads later. However the case may be, or regardless of however anyone thinks, I still could get in to another Pokemon because I know he's going to switch out. He's not going to want to let Rotom Wash go down, because if he lets Rotom Wash go down, then Groudon theoretically goes in. So we keep it going. I go for U-turn and go into Lantern. I go for Volt Switch, but he goes for Wish. Now, at this point in time, right, this was the bad place. This was a bad decision by me, where he goes into Rotom and I go for U-turn. If I had just gone for Focus Blast right now, right, it might not kill, but Banjo's not going back up to like nearly full, you know what I mean? So, excuse me, I've been talking, so I gotta drink water. So like, does 12%, and I could have easily gotten more damage on this. He gets the Wish, and now he's back to full, basically. I go into Lantern because I know I'm gonna get burned. And it's just like, whatever. He goes for Hex. I go for Ice Beam, and unfortunately I do freeze Ben. These kind of things happen. Don't worry, he'll get his revenge later. So, he's frozen. I just go for Volt Switch, and I tell him in chat I was expecting Mudsdale, because that's generally what I was expecting. He goes into Cinderace, and I go for Leech Seed. And at this point, I'm going for Protect plus Leech Seed because there's no reason not to. And it gives me chip on Cinderace automatically. I go into Mandy as he goes for Pyro Ball. Ben might be bluffing what his potential set could be, but you never know. I get my Air Slash off, and I go into Cell Steel, and now Cell Steel gets frozen. Now, to review some things, I'm only doing this to get chip for a Lycanroc endgame where I could potentially win. That's why I'm doing the plays I'm doing. Because the Lycanroc endgame is that Lycanroc should be able to kill at least a few Pokemon before it dies to its Life Orb, which we'll reveal in a second. So we do get frozen, unfortunately. So it is a freeze off, basically. I don't have Flamethrower, don't have anything. Freeze Dry doesn't kill me, which is good to know for Modest. We do Accelerock just in case he stayed in. We are at 4% the rest of this battle as Mudsdale came in, of course. And we do go back into Salamence. He does go for Smackdown, but there's really nothing he can do. Except we're going to Kyurem White. I just go for Roost because I lose nothing. And I also can go into a different Pokemon like Victini. I take the Draco Meteor, surprisingly, take 50. Crazy, right? And I just U-turn. And I go into Debrickashaw finally. Now Groudon here, all he has to do is get off damage and gets Flamethrowers and other hits off as I'm expecting other Pokemon to be coming in. Goes into Rotom and I just get this kill. Furthermore, max HP has a 31.3 chance or something like that to die from maximum HP. So no matter the crit here, this would have died regardless. So just clearing it up, you know, in case it actually happens in the battle, because I haven't played it yet, because this is the team builder. I usually do my team builders before the battle. It didn't matter. I've already done the calcs. I'm Expert Belt, max fucking special attack. It kills. So I get rid of Rotom Wash, which is very important to my game. Wasn't this crafty. I'm going to switch out into Mandy, into Salamence, and get knocked off for 10% because I already lost my item. I'll go for another Air Slash. Because now Kyurem White is exactly in range. Now I can let Celesteela die because I don't need it anymore. And I want to go for Protect just to see if I break out first turn. Don't. Go into Victini, as he doesn't want to go for his own Ice Beam again. And I go back into Debrickashaw. I just go for Flamethrower. Obviously Ben's trying to die in his own terms, but obviously that's not going to work here. And now we're in the kind of end game. I go for Earth Patch just in case something else comes in like Cinderace. Goes for U-turn. I take about 27. I just go for attacks here, honestly, because there's no reason not to. And this is obviously Spit F Scrafty from that damage, so it goes back into Kyurem White as I go for Toxic. You know, I go into Glimmer. Glimmer takes 33. And this is actually a roll that's not in my favor, I believe, because I live on 1% and I get off my Volt Switch. So, yeah. Pretty good stuff. Lycanroc isn't going to go for the kill here because I have to go back in the Glimmer and just go for damage. Now, this is where I should have gone back into Mandy, aka Salamence, to stop the rocks from getting up so I don't have to take Rocks Chip on Salamence because I already lost my boots. I see going for Ice Beams because I'm like, fuck it. I'm feeling cocky. I got this. I needed to go back into Salamence because I can't lose my Lycanroc at this point. I can lose, however, my Victini, which I don't know why Ben goes into Scrafty. He does mention he should have just sacked Kyurem, which is true. Kyurem dying would have been a lot better for him, because then this doesn't happen. I get rid of my hazards. He goes for U-turn. I go for Roost. And now I can go for Air Slashes however I please while letting Victini be the sack. And I do, unfortunately, end up flinching him. Sorry, Ben. And then I just kill him. And then, obviously, Kyurem comes in. I let go of Victini this turn, as Kyurem does kill Victini, while it also dies to toxic damage. And Cinderace comes in while I go into Salamence. Goes to Super Fang, which is super unfortunate, and then Ben forfeits after this turn, because obviously, I can go ahead and stall him out at this point. Regardless of that fact, even if Ben goes for this play of just Super Fanging my Salamence, I can Roost. I can also Air Slash him afterwards, or I can just if I get off the Toxic and I just go for a Roost, I basically stall him out. And this was a really good victory, no cap, because I wasn't winning a lot of my matches until I got to this point where my build was just good enough to where I knew I could control the game. I just need to figure out what the best mode of action is. So, to explain the team in more depth, here it is. Same Cell Steal you've been seeing on all the other Poke Paste. Leech Seed, Air Slash, Protect, Flash Cannon, Max HP, 68 Spadef with Calm Nature, 164 in Special Attack, 4 in Defense, 20 in Speed. You can argue how I should have min-maxed or made the EVs better, whatever. I don't care. You could argue that I should have a better leftovers number. Again, I don't care. I should care, arguably, but I don't. Because here's what happens. 201, 205, because you want to go divided by 4 plus 1. Which, this might be better. And it probably is. But I also want to make sure that it's known that maybe I'll change it, but I also don't care, and I didn't care when I made it. I might change it back. I don't know. But just so no one's getting on me in the comments, we're going to leave it like this. Make it look pretty. A little bit prettier. Basically, I want to make sure that this Pokemon lives Ice Beams. It is genuinely 3-hit killed by Ice Beam, unless there is a roll that I'm unaware of. So there is that. 2-hit kills most Kyurem Whites. Leech Seeds everything on this team and can protect afterwards. And we can Air Slash, Crafty, and generally 2-hit KO it. If it's not Spadef, if it is just regularly max HP and max defense, we 2-hit KO Air Slash. If it's Spadef, I think it's 3-hit KO, which is completely fine. It only knocks us off, and that's about it. Vapor Rub takes 3 Kyurem White Earth Powers, as well as taking Ice Beams and Freeze Dries. The best thing you can do is actually be modest specs to a point where Draco Meteor can 2-hit KO us perfectly, or even to that extent, Earth Power 2-hit KO us, basically. Can't stop it, but if it is specs, we'll find out the hard way. Focus Blast of the 92 modest investment also just genuinely kills it. It kills Kyurem in 2 shots. Solar Beam is there mostly for if we're in the sun against Rotom. We do about 72% as far as I've seen before. We never actually just KO it, but we do a lot of damage to it, which is very important. Sting Shot is mostly for burns, and U-turning is just for momentum. We have no speed because we don't really need it for the mons that we want to outspeed. Can't Rock. Life Orb. Play Rough, XL Rock, Stone Edge, Toxic. You see it. You know what it does. Also, since we're adamant, even when we get intimidated, max HP, max defense, Scrafty should die to Play Rough. I could be wrong. I'll leave a note on screen if I'm wrong. I know one calc I did see, it showed that Scrafty still died because of our Life Orb Adamant Play Rough, even if we're at -1. So, that's pretty cool. Regardless, I'm pretty sure it was the Impish calc I did. So yeah, we should be able to kill it. As long as we hit. And you know me. You know me. Debrickashaw. Expert Belt Special. 252 special attack, 180 in speed with 76 in Spadef. Basically, we just kind of made it faster than Venusaur, modest in Not in the Sun. We really don't care for Venusaur this game, honestly. We have Celesteela if it doesn't have Weather Ball. Even if it does, we shouldn't die unless it's at +2. And we also have Mandy, so we should be fine there. Regardless though, Groudon does a lot of good work here. Solar Beam always kills max or has a chance to kill max HP Rotom Wash, but we have to be careful. We would rather it have chips so that we get the guaranteed kill. We don't want to switch it in immediately to Rotom Wash because that'll just tell Jorge that it's special. Toxic is good for things switching like Sylveon, even Mudsdale and Scrafty, and then we have generally just Stab, Earth Power, and then Flamethrower in the Sun is pretty good. Glimmer, Leftovers, defensive check to Cinderace, and also a great defensive check to just in general Scrafty sometimes. On top of which, it can definitely help with Scrafty. We 2-hit KO every time it Dazzling Gleam with the 28 invested. We have 28 in case Scrafty's trying to creep us at 12 speed or whatever have you, so I went above to 28 instead of just a 20 speed. 196 in HP, 252 in defense. We literally need this Pokemon if we want to stand a chance against Cinderace, especially in the sun. Toxic is really good for Sylveon coming in, and in general, Volt switching around. Jorge's team would be the best possible option that we have. Last but really not least, we got physically defensive Salamence, Defog Roost, Toxic, Air Slash, 52 at HP, 252 defense, 204 speed. 204 speed is mostly for a Venusaur that is timid, not in sun. While I don't think we actually I think we probably 2-hit KO with Air Slash. The idea is that we just want to basically outpace it so that we can hit it with Air Slash rather than not be able to hit it. And if it's life where we can try and Roost Stall it, unless it's Sludge Bombing, of course. Outside of that, it basically gets off Toxics whenever it wants to. Defogs away hazards. We have Boots for just in case. Air Slash genuinely 2-hit KOs defensive, not specially defensive Scrafty, but we'll deal with the punches as they come. We want to talk to things like Mudsdale and Sylveon, and even in general anything coming in doesn't want to take a Toxic, generally speaking, because it allows me to whittle down the team. Basically, this team is meant to whittle down everything for Lycanroc and even Debrickashaw and even to some extent Celesteela. Celesteela is going to be boosting his special attack most of the time, so we should be fine in that regard. Debrickashaw, if allowed, we could definitely do some good sweeping with him, but I wanted to be rock polished, but I'm gonna just stay to what I know first. Lycanroc is basically our end-game sweeper, our end-game cleaner. Everything else is basically just gonna be whittling those down so that Lycanroc can definitely do what it can against this team. So that's the team builder, long as shit, and just me mostly going over the replay that I actually won, because I actually did lose a bunch of my replays, and I learned from a bunch of them that basically Dragapult was not the answer here. At least I said I wanted to run it, and when trying to think of another set, basically came down to Scarf, and it wasn't doing the same things I wanted it to do for this game, so I shelved it. Additionally, Leafeon was almost brought to this game, but unfortunately we couldn't, at least I couldn't think of a good way to get Leafeon in and out of the game. Basically, it allows Inkyurem White and Cinderace too much, and that's basically not my objective. My objective is to whittle down the defensive checks and then perhaps let in the other mons. It also lets in Scrafty because we get intimidated really easily, so we don't want that to happen. Outside of that, guys, that's going to do it for the team builder concerning Bibble Week 1 against Jorge. Hopefully get a dub here. Your Boston Cynicals would like to start up the season great instead of losing like we usually do during Week 1, but hey, that's going to do it for me. If you guys like this video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, check out everyone else in the bubble down below, and talk to you guys next time, and peace.